Well. Look at that. We're back. And a lot has changed.
Yes, a lot has changed. As you can clearly tell by my video, not your video, but my
Yeah,
video, a lot has changed. I trimmed my beard the other day.
it's
Looks
looking great.
looks pretty thank you. I try. I really do
You
try.
really
I'm
got
wearing a different
the
shirt.
line. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not wearing the same shirt from 3 weeks ago?
No, you know what? I'm actually not sure. There's like statistically it could be, but it's probably not. So I'm gonna say it's a new shirt.
Wow. I mean, that's that. So that's it. That's the news.
Yeah, that's what's
Nothing else
new.
has changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Also, wait, is it called the news because it's things that are new?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, that makes sense.
News etymology. What is the etymology? It comes from medieval Latin, which meant new things. And then that became Old French, which was noveles. And then it became English for new. And it's late Middle English, the plural of news, the plural of new, translating Old French noveles or medieval Latin nova, new things. So it is.
Okay, so you were right.
How about that? Look at all that. Okay, so the actual news, I moved across the country. I'll widen my shot here. There's not a lot to look at the moment because I'm still working on everything. I even have my lamp is on the floor down there. That's not on purpose. I got my table and I have my got my plant, and that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I feel like that plant is doing some heavy lifting and making that background look presentable, we'll say.
Yeah, it's really doing twice as much work as I thought it was gonna have to do. And honestly, I gotta be honest, Noah. The this this new apartment that I moved into is a lot nicer than the place I was at before, and it's larger, which is good. But the so I'm kind of upsizing and downsizing at the same time because the apartment is larger and a lot nicer. Weirdly, not that much more expensive, so we take that dub.
Mm-hmm.
But like the trade-off is at my old place, I was filming in my living room, right? I like my table was just behind the couch. You could probably see it in different shots. And then I had sort of a lofted area. That's where I had my editing desk. So that's where we did the podcast. That's where I shot uh my sponsored segments. And I would do videos there like after Apple events. Like all of that took place up there, and then my main videos were in my living room. So the trade-off that I didn't really think about all that much was I instead of having like a weird small not full room but like a little loft area, I now have this room which is an entire bedroom that's just to film in. However, I am not filming in the living room. So that means I get like a real apartment. You know, you don't walk in and just see film equipment. So I like that.
Yeah.
But the inverse of that is now this room has to do everything. I mean, I'm going to film out there frequently, I assume, but most filming for my main videos is at the table behind me. The podcast is here, the editing is here. It's all got to happen in one place, and it's a lot. When you think of it that way, it's a lot smaller.
Yeah, I mean those giant lights, I don't even know what they're called, but I associate them with like picture day at school. Those like really big key
Oh,
lights or
the
whatever they're
big
called.
diffusion boxes.
Yeah, those things are huge. I mean,
Yeah.
are those going in this room?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like those are huge. Yeah, I mean You've got the table, you've got, I guess this is sort of your editing desk is going to double as the podcast desk. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Maybe you'll do a little secondary set out in the other room, if if it gets too
Yeah.
cramped in here.
I do have, so I got this really nice kitchen island. It's like a pretty standard apartment layout with like an L-shaped kitchen, where like the fridge is against the wall where the door is, and then the rest of it's against the other wall. And so I got this counter height kitchen island that really, it looks so much better with that. I really like my kitchen, and I'm probably gonna film in there because it's really big. A lot of the square footage I'm gaining is in the kitchen, so I'm probably going to film out there a lot. The issue is in here. I rearranged this room 7 times over the last 2 days
Jeez.
because I'm just trying to find I've got a big editing desk, but the desk is also going to be my background. I didn't really show my editing setup at the old place because it was really not aesthetic. It didn't really need to be. It was just an absolute rat's nest of wires because I was always filming from it backwards, so it didn't really need to look like anything. Now that's no longer the case, so the desk is going to look really sick, I think. But it's been definitely a challenge to get this room set up the way I want it. So we'll see how it goes, but I think I'll pull it off.
I think it'll be good. I think I don't know. Seems like it'll be a nice setup once you get your stuff going, and definitely like I don't know. The kitchen seems pretty nice. I mean, I guess I'll find out for myself. Not too
Yeah.
long, but I don't know if we want
We're
to
doing
mention that.
Yeah, because we are doing an in-person podcast in 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, in 2 weeks from now. Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, so Noah's coming to visit. We are now on the same time zone. I moved to California for reasons that I'm not fully sure myself, but will hopefully make sense.
Yeah, that's still. I still haven't. I guess once I come visit you, then it'll like set in, for me. But I still
Right.
haven't like. To me, I mean, like I don't know. You're definitely a lot closer, but it's still far enough that like you might as well be in DC. But obviously, next
Right.
week that'll change.
Yeah, it's like cuz San Francisco to LA, not close, not particularly close. However, I think the real difference will be in the travel time because you do have to get on a plane to see each other, as was the case before. Except now it's a very short plane instead of being, 5 hours each way.
Yeah, so it will make it a lot easier because I guess like back when you were in DC, it was really just like if I happened to be, if I was, coming to the East Coast for some reason, or you were coming to the West Coast for some reason, then we could meet up. But now it's like,
Yeah.
much easier, which will be very nice.
Yeah, that is true. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hopeful. Uh, I moved here the same exact day as Sam. Good old Sam from Genius Bar. I don't know. Did you see the Genius Bar episode that they shot?
I watched the first like 2 minutes when they for that like the joke that they made at the beginning. Yeah.
Let me let me just pull this up here because I can't really do it on the full podcast for audio listeners. But I do want to show everyone the hilarious setup that Sam had because
Oh yeah.
so I'll explain in a moment, but we had different strategies. We knew that we were moving at the same time, which was honestly great because it was not the easiest move to do and it would have been very scary to do it alone. But I want to show you guys the setup that Sam had. It was so funny. Let's see if here's a full screen Sam.
Yeah.
So we had different strategies when we moved here. My strategy, which was better, I'm sorry, Sam, but it was better. My strategy was I moved out of my old place right before Thanksgiving, that Monday before Thanksgiving, which meant that when I came here to California on the 28th, my stuff showed up on the 30th. So I had 2 nights on an air mattress, and then my stuff was here, and I was off to the races. Sam, on the other hand, did not do that. He moved out on the 27th, came here the next day.
Oof.
And his movers, I don't think he actually talked about this, but his movers have like other deliveries to do. So he's not going to get his stuff until the day that we go to visit you, the 11th.
Really?
He's got 9 more days.
Oh, geez. Wait, so but is that going to be a problem if you're visiting me?
We have not figured that part out yet. Because I don't think the delivery date is confirmed, but they said they think that it's going to be the 11th, which is the last day of like the window of time that they gave him.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we got to figure out how that's going to work.
Yikes.
But yeah, so what you're seeing there is the entirety of Sam's apartment. I've been over there. Some people are asking, do we live in the same building? That's not true. We do not live in the same building, but we live pretty close. And his apartment is literally just, it's a mattress on the floor. He also has a kitchen island, and he has a chair that I gave him because I had a chair I didn't need. Like literally like a $20 IKEA chair that I got earlier when I didn't have anything. So that's it.
Wow. I like the random assorted cardboard boxes in the background are really adding some character to this shot.
I know, like, dude, you could have tidied that up a little bit. My goodness, just
know,
put
come
him in the
on.
closet and shut the door.
Yeah, I don't I don't know. Sam has other priorities clearly.
Yeah. Oh, hang on a second. I'm getting a call from my building. Do I answer it? Yeah, we haven't
put it
started.
on speaker.
Answer this call because it might be important.
Oh, jeez. These these are the woes of moving in. Okay. Can anyone in the chat read lips? Can we figure out what he's saying? All right. It seems like it's not an emergency. That's good. Okay.
I have a lost package, and they thought that it was it, but it wasn't it.
Oh,
Yeah, and I was
rip.
And you live in a place for 3 days, and the leasing office calls you, and you're like, okay, let me just double check that this isn't, oh hey, you actually haven't paid your rent and you're evicted.
Yeah, you gotta check.
You always got to check those things. But anyway, we can continue talking about the California stuff, but we should probably start the show.
Yes, we should.
I'm by the way at a very odd setup here because actually I'll explain this on the show. Well, let's just get going.
Okay.
It's a bit goofy. Welcome to Drk Mode, the podcast that brings you sage advice from 2 technology experts. But that's not just what we call ourselves. It's what our moms tell people when their sons move across the country. I'm your host, Luke Miani.
And I'm your host, Noah Rubin. On the show, we take questions from listeners, attempt to answer them to varying degrees of success, and maybe even have a laugh or two along the way, or a move or two along the way. In this case, just one.
Indeed. Well, technically two, because if I'm not mistaken, you moved to California back in 2021, which was also during dark mode.
Okay, that's true. I will say, okay, in the past,
Mhm.
the past year, the past month, even we'll call it one. But that is true that we
You
have
said
both
along the way.
moved along the way. Okay, okay. You know what? Since the beginning of Dark Mode, we did both move to
Mhm.
California. So I will give that to you. Two moves.
There you go. Two moves. I mean, you said two a move or two along the way, and that's exactly what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, I'm noticing here in the chat, someone is joking about my cars getting smashed in shipping. Fortunately, no issues there. However, I did have my PC monitor get smashed in shipping. So I didn't quite make it here scot free. We do have a casualty of the move.
That's not only that, but a lost package too.
Yeah, that's true. The lost package is less concerning. It's like a cable management thing that I'm gonna put on my desk. I'm kind of like building a desk. I was like looking at getting an off the shelf desk, right? Something on
Mm-hmm.
West Elm or Wayfair or something. I don't know. But I didn't really like any of them. I wanted to have storage. I wanted to have like a cool color scheme. And they were all kind of like, first of all, very expensive. And second of all, not really the dimensions I was looking for. If I wanted to get a really wide desk, they were really deep as well. And I don't really need that. So what I ended up doing was I went to IKEA. Now I don't like IKEA. I don't furnish my apartment with IKEA because it's all honestly very overpriced. But the exception to that would be what I've done here, which is not really what you're supposed to do. But I bought two of those Alex drawer things. Like, I think they're like $90. They have five drawers
Mm-hmm.
and, pretty usual stuff. But I got them in green, which is a fun color. And then I actually bought a countertop, like a prefab countertop, and just put it on top of the desks. And there you go. We got a
Hmm.
desk.
Did you get the countertop from IKEA?
Hmm.
Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
So the all-in price, and it's a butcher block countertop. I think it's a veneer. I'm pretty sure I don't know why IKEA is allergic to solid wood. In fact, yeah, looking at the front of this desk, it is most certainly a veneer, but that's okay. The whole thing in total, I think, was under $300 for a 74-inch wide desk. So pretty cost effective, I would say.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Unfortunately, I don't have a microphone arm yet, so I'm just kind of holding it today. We're still a little janky here, but things are coming along.
That's good. Yeah, this definitely gives me the same vibe as the Genius Bar podcast with Sam. Obviously, your background's not quite as messy, but the same,
Yeah.
holding the microphone and whatever. It's
Yeah.
good. It's exciting.
At least I have a legitimate light, I'm well lit. I got the mic, I got the 4K camera, I got the plant. Look at that.
Oh, good. There it is.
Sam didn't have that.
No, he just had some cardboard boxes behind him.
Exactly. I have those too, but I pushed them off camera because I care.
Wow, that's the dark mode difference right there.
Mhm. We should patent that, the dark mode difference.
Yeah, I like that.
So anyway, yeah. I have to figure out what content I'm gonna do. I'm only here actually very briefly until I go home for the holidays, but I'm trying to figure out what moving content to do. I've got one video that's like a studio setup, and then I've got another one that's going to be a desk setup, which I've actually been working on for a long time, trying to get, everything put together from various brands. So I'm hoping it's going to be pretty cool, but stay tuned because it might not be cool, and you won't want to miss me crashing and burning. Tell you that much.
I think it'll be cool. I will be there in just over a week to inspect everything and ensure that it
Yeah,
is, reaching the coolness threshold that we need here.
that's good. That's a good idea. I'm
Yeah,
glad that we'll have the journalistic standards and integrity that you bring to the table. That's really excellent news, I think.
absolutely.
And so yeah, the other piece of information that I've got is a little teaser. A little teaser. I don't know if you guys saw in the community tab. I've been doing a little teasing, a little goofing around there. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in 2 days' time, I've got a video that I think you guys are really gonna like. And I actually started working on that video, if you can believe it, in May. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's been a long time coming.
No one knows what it is,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's
you
pretty
guys
cool.
don't, and I'm not gonna tell because it's probably one of the bigger, if not the biggest project that I've done. I think, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna upgrade that to the biggest project that I've done. It's got it all. All right. We got some vintage stuff in there. We got some repair. We got, the classic my one of my most viewed videos is I bought a pile of MacBooks, fixed them up. One of my other most viewed videos is I bought a 2007 MacBook Pro. Kind of combined some elements from those, and you've got yourself a recipe for a pretty banger video. It's 34 minutes long.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, now someone in fairness did say, is it bigger than flying to Australia for the iPhone release? I would say in terms of concept, probably not, but in terms of project, yes. And someone said, did I buy more iPhone 4s? The answer is no. But that is also one of my most viewed videos. So kind of add that to the mixing pot, and you've got yourself a pretty good hint as to what's coming out in 2 days' time.
Yeah, I would say, not to spoil anything, but I think
Mm.
it does reach that coolness threshold that we were talking about just a minute ago. I think it is not only reaches but exceeds. I would
Oh,
say
heavens.
it absolutely gets the seal of approval.
It gets the NOAA seal of approval.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? That's high marks. And if it gets the NOAA seal of approval, then it can probably get yours. So be sure to stay tuned because it's coming out on December 5th. That's my little promo. And by the way, sorry, I keep looking off to the side here. I encountered a slight issue with my desk, and that is because it is so big and my Mac Pro is not on top of it because I'm not insane. The Mac Pro's off to the side. And it turns out the cord that they give you with the studio display is not very long. So my my display is way off to the side there.
Oh,
It's not ergonomic at all.
you might have to get one of those $120 Thunderbolt cables or something to make it longer.
Oh god. I might have to. Is that how much they cost? How long is the $120 cable?
Well, that's like this. That's like the fancy like Thunderbolt 4, like whatever active power, whatever it's called. I'm sure you could get one for
Yeah,
cheaper.
that's true. I want to see how long it is. I think it's 6 feet. I mean, Thunderbolt cables are expensive. There's a lot of technology in there.
Yeah.
But you know what? Actually, as a part of this desk setup video that I'm working on here, I may actually be abandoning my studio display, leaving the Apple ecosystem for the display. Pretty crazy.
Really different
Yeah,
display.
I know. It's We'll see. Actually, wait a minute. Do I even have the display ports for what I want? Okay, I may need to get some adapters. Oh God. Anyway,
Interesting. I don't know. You were talking about like you wanted a Pro Display XDR for a while. I guess they still haven't updated it, so maybe you're
yeah,
still
I
waiting
mean,
for that.
yeah. No, if the Pro Display XDR was less than 4 years old, sure. And if it was less than 6 grand, but I'm not trying to spend 2 months rent on one display, especially because
Yeah.
I'm now, unfortunately, Noah, I'm addicted to dual monitors.
Really?
Yeah. I know. Didn't you
Hmm.
you used to have dual monitors? Do you still have that in your room for work?
No, I used to. Well, I used to have dual monitors, but I really
You
like
never
never
used it.
used the, I never used it. I like right now I have one monitor. Even at my office, I have one monitor. I like one big monitor. That's
Mhm.
my MO.
Yeah. See, I there's a couple things that bother me about Apple right now, and the displays really just aren't good. Like the studio display, the only reason that the studio display is even remotely passable is because one, it's 5K, and two, it looks really, really good. But that's not enough because it has a very plain, boring stand with like angle adjustment and nothing else. And it costs $1,600 and it's only 27 inches. Dude, come on. We can do better than that.
Yeah, it's really that thing was like. I mean, it's been weird since it came out, but it's too expensive for what it is.
Yeah.
Like that thing alone, it's too expensive, and the fact that there's not a larger option is like pretty disappointing. I mean, except for the Pro Display
Mhm.
XDR, which I would argue is a very different class of product.
Yeah. They like they really need something in between. And I understand, people are going to hear me say they need something in between. They're going to be like, I can't believe you're defending Apple for having a $1,600 monitor. I'm not, but I'm a pragmatic person. Okay. Everyone's always like, I'm not buying another MacBook until they bring back upgradable RAM. And I'm like, okay, well, you're never going to buy a MacBook then because that ship has sailed. I'm not going to wish for the impossible. I get that Apple brought this display out almost 2 years ago now. $1,600. Haven't touched it since. Same panel that you used to get a whole entire computer with for $100 more, but it's just not going to happen. But I would love to see Apple come out with like a 30-inch display, maybe with mini LED, because realistically, that's what we're going to be getting on the Pro Display XDR eventually, hopefully. So 2-3 grand, 30-inch mini LED, then you've got my money. But until then, I'm not buying another studio display. I could buy two completely different, better monitors for that amount of money, and I will.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's also reflective in what Apple's been doing with the iMac. Like they just refreshed the iMac 24-inch with the new processors, and they
Mhm.
outright stated that they're not doing a 27-inch. Obviously, that leaves the door open if they could do a 30-inch or a 32-inch, whatever. But like whether or not you want to read between the lines, they said they're not doing a 27-inch monitor. Like I don't know. I think it seems like they've kind of given up on the desktop monitors, which is really really unfortunate.
I'm so mad about it, Noah.
I know. I
What are they
know.
doing, man? Look, the iMac is so good. You have to understand, the iMac saved Apple, right? Think back to 1998, dog. Apple was on life support. Steve Jobs came back. He said, "Hey, what if we made a desktop that people want?" And it wasn't a big beige hideous monstrosity. And it worked. People loved it. And the iMac was king. You go back to pre-Apple Silicon days and pre-2019 Mac Pro days, every single YouTuber had an iMac. The 27-inch iMac was the lifeblood of content creators, freelancers. I mean, that thing was the all-in-one, right? Has never been more true than with that thing. It was perfect, except for Intel. But we know that now.
Yeah, the iMac it really is such a great machine. It's like such an easy, it's like, the MacBook Air is like the default, Apple laptop, and it's so easy to recommend to people because it's so, thin and light, and it has great battery life, and it has great performance thanks to Apple Silicon, whatever. It's just so easy to recommend. Same thing with the iMac. It's such an easy thing to recommend. It has plenty of power for the majority of people. It has a very nice display in it, has a nice set of speakers. The IO is fine for what it is. Like, it's a very nice, very easy thing to recommend. But like, I don't know. It's just when that 24-inch iMac came out with Apple Silicon, and we were like, okay, that's cool. Now, where's the 27-inch? Where's the iMac Pro? And then our dreams just like slowly, crusted over like a syrupy sweet. And
good reference.
If I even said that right, yes, I knew you'd get that. But
it festered in the sun.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, and it seems like it's dead at this point.
Absolutely. The 27-inch iMac is a dream deferred. It is, dude. And the thing about the 27-inch iMac is it was a ridiculously good value. That's the thing. Like, honestly, maybe that's why they killed it. They were like, dang, we're not ripping them off enough. Because you used to be able to get for less than $3,000 I'm talking like the later years of the 27-inch iMac. And ironically, we were mad about it at the time. 2019 was the last like really relevant update to the iMac, because when it got updated in 2020, it was literally like after they announced Apple Silicon. So nobody cared about it then. But in 2018 or 2019, I think it was 2019, they didn't update it in 2018. You could get for less than $3,000 a really powerful, at the time, Core i7 or Core i9. You could upgrade the RAM yourself, dude. You could put a crap ton of RAM in that thing without even a screwdriver. It had like a little hatch on the back. It was great. You could even, open up those displays, and even in the later years there, you could put in SSDs, put in hard drives if you wanted to. And you got a 5K display. I mean, it started at $17.99. All right. In 2014, that's when the 5K iMac came out. In 2014, for $17.99, you could get a 5K display with an entire Mac attached to it. And it wasn't like a slow one at that. It had, for 2014, it was decent spec. The display alone would have cost you $17.99 if you could even find one, because it's been impossible to find 5K displays. Windows laptops and PCs couldn't even output 5K. Apple had to design their own special internal dual Thunderbolt connection. I don't know if you knew that, but the original 5K iMac has internally on those GPUs, it was a specially modified GPU that was outputting 2 different display ports, and the display was actually split right down the middle into 2 halves. And it was internally, like on a firmware level, it recognized as like 2 displays that were then combined into being a single output. Like, they literally had to do so much engineering to get that 5K, and it was $17.99. Crazy.
I know. And the crazy thing is, like, why would they not just make a larger studio display? Obviously, like, the value isn't there. The studio display as it is too expensive. But if you could pay a couple $100 more than the current studio display and get one with a larger, larger screen, at least you'd have the option. At least it would
Right.
be there. I'm not saying it's a good value, but it would be there.
Yeah, and look, that's a great point. I would buy it if there was a 30-inch cinema display, studio display. Sorry, I went back in time to 2004. Yeah, that's right. 20 years ago, Apple had a 30-inch display, but now Pro Display XDR, your only option. 4 years, no updates. It has less local dimming zones than a 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Think about that for a second. And you're paying $6,000 for that display. But if there was a 30-inch studio display, it would be like $2,500. I don't even care. I would buy 2 of them. That's how much of a sucker I am. But they literally do you understand how much Apple has to mess up for me to say, no thanks, I'm going to buy a third-party monitor? I'm a sucker. They have to be really bad.
Yeah, and it is pretty bad. It's pretty unfortunate.
Anyway, we talked a decent amount here about iMacs. I also just checked the time and it said 6:26, and that tripped me out because normally we record this and it's 9:30 for me, and now it's 6:30, and I'm like, oh, there's like time left after the podcast. What the hell?
Yeah, I was thinking like now you're gonna see what it's like. Obviously, we've done a couple of episodes when you came to visit me, but now you'll really see what it's like to have the 6 o'clock starting time. It's a blessing and a curse. I will say it's a blessing and a curse.
Really? So wait, so is it a curse because the like 6 o'clock starting time is kind of too early? I could definitely see how like it would get in the way of like dinner plans. Although I guess 7 is like a normal time to get dinner.
Yeah, it can get in the way sometimes. Honestly, I mean, Sundays are like, pretty easy. But like earlier today, I went to the gym with my friends and then we got food after. We were watching TV, and it was literally like as soon as the episode ended, I was like, okay, I got to go downstairs and get ready. It ended at like 10 minutes before we went live. So I'm like, okay, I got to go downstairs and get ready for this. My friend left, whatever. It's not too bad. It is nice to end at like 7 o'clock, and then I have time to do whatever chores and get ready for the week, whatever. But it's a blessing and a curse.
That's interesting because I would say that the 9 o'clock start time was also a blessing and a curse for me, because on the one hand, it was late enough that I could do stuff during the afternoon, but whenever I would have dinner plans with friends, starting at 8:50 meant that I had to get ready at like 8:40, and that meant I had to like not be out past, I'd try to get home by like 8:20, 8:30 if I was out. So it would like definitely cut things a little short. It'll be interesting to adjust. I don't know. Should we change the time? Would that make it better for you if we moved
I don't
it
really
back?
mind. I think we should see. We should see what you think about the time. I personally don't mind it too much, but
Okay.
and it gives the East Coast folks a chance to tune in. So we'll see.
All right. Yeah, we'll keep it the same. Now, I got to pull up a comment here because I was thinking, this wasn't a really big week for Apple news. However, we did have some technology news that I think we got to talk about that I had forgotten about.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the Cybertruck.
Oh, yeah.
And I really want to hear your take. Did you watch the delivery event?
No, I didn't watch the event. I've read some things mostly on Twitter or X, whatever, but I did not watch the event.
Yeah, so it was terrible. The launch event was actually god awful.
Really?
Yeah, Elon is one of the worst public speakers I think I've ever seen. He can't string a sentence together for his life, and he honestly looked like he didn't rehearse at all. Like he got up there and just winged it, wung it. I don't know. It looked like he had not practiced anything. And
Oh
the very
no.
first thing he did was, he drove up in the Cybertruck, he got out, and then he stood in the bed of the truck, and it was 100% spontaneous because he was not lit to be in there. So his entire head was completely dark and you couldn't see it at all. It
Oh
looked like
no.
a just beheaded man was standing there holding a microphone.
Oh
It's
no.
hilarious. Oh my God. Yeah, but I want to get your take on the truck itself. What do you think?
I mean, I've definitely seen pictures. I've seen some videos as well. I think it looks so goofy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Some people like it. I think does Sam actually like it? Like unironically?
Oh yeah.
No, but like
Oh yeah.
unironically. Like he's not joking.
No, he's not joking. He
Oh
really, really
no.
likes it.
It's so goofy. It's
Yeah,
not
I'm
good.
okay, but think about it this way though. Sam is not the go-to for, if I wanted to get advice on like style choices for like a car, I wouldn't go to Sam because he wants like I bet you Sam would love a chrome G-Wagon, He wants a statement. He wants it to be out there and fun and interesting. And the Cybertruck certainly is all of those things, but it's definitely not to my liking. Um, but yeah, that's so the thing that stood out to me the most, I mean, besides the look, is actually Elon did the Cybertruck so dirty because there's a lot of stuff about it that is so cool and they didn't talk about it at all.
Hmm.
Like, so here's the thing. Also, I love that Richard here in the chat was like, I wouldn't go to you either. Cool. Thank you. You don't have to. I love that, the YouTube chat's always gotta be. I'm goofing around with my buddy Sam because we always make fun of each other. And then Richard's just like, oh yeah? Well, you suck. So thanks, Richard. Anyway, a lot of really cool tech in the Cybertruck, unironically. I don't like the look at all, and I certainly am no Elon fan, but the coolest things about the Cybertruck, number one, steer by wire. That is a bold move. Lexus is working on that as well. They have, I don't think it's in production yet, but they've a couple months ago at the beginning of the year, they had press taking their steer by wire car out for a spin and they put a real like yoke in it. So it's like, unlike the Cybertruck's kind of like a half yoke because it's like a very small, squat little, almost square wheel. The Lexus one is a real yoke, and it's a really cool system. I'm glad that we're finally seeing innovation there. And if anyone's going to push it to the mainstream, Tesla's probably the one. I mean, they're kind of Apple-like in that respect. They'll move fast and break things. The other thing that they did was it's a 48 volt system in the truck. And there's some things that are consumer facing that are a benefit from that. There's some things that are not, but it reduces the amount of wiring. It reduces the current. There's a very good explanation that Engineering Explained did. And basically we've been on 12 volt systems for cars since 1956. So Tesla was the first one to actually be like, all right, let's do something better. And the other thing they did was completely rethink the way to build a truck. We've been building trucks the same way for 70 years. And they kind of said, hey, let's do it a little differently. Whether that's successful or not is up to you, but undeniably some really cool tech that Elon just didn't talk about at all.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it's always going to happen. Like this the Cybertruck has always been controversial for the entire time, like since it was announced, especially for the looks and the timeline, in terms of its being delivered now finally, but later than it was promised. And arguably under delivering in terms of like the range, the final range versus the promised range, and the price. It's more expensive than it was, originally said to be, which whatever. I mean, things happen. It takes time, inflation, whatever. But, very controversial, but that always happens where these very cool things, but they're a little bit more under the hood, no pun intended, a little bit more, lower, this just the kind of things that don't get event time. And like, whatever you think of Musk and the Cybertruck, like obviously they're very smart and talented people working at Tesla on this. So it's like, we'll sit here and we're gonna make fun of it a bit, especially the way that it looks and whatever. But like at the end of the day, there's some cool things about it, and we'll happily admit that.
It's just a little. I do wish, like, I get that they wanted to make something completely different, and in some ways I respect that, right? Like, I think honestly a lot of the traditional automakers seem to be going in a weird direction, especially with EVs. You look at BMW's styling department lately has come up with some really, I guess they're trying to do something different, but it's not really successful in a lot of cases. Same with Mercedes, the EQS and the EQE. Holy cow, what were they thinking? They're absolutely hideous. They look like blobfish. So Tesla is by no means the only one doing something unconventional and a little bit ugly.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny because all of the other Teslas, like, the S3, X, and Y, they're all so ubiquitous, especially here in California. I mean, in the Bay Area and also, in LA, whatever. So ubiquitous. It almost seems like, they went all the Teslas, they like the existing ones all look very similar and they're so ubiquitous. They're like, we need to do something completely different and go totally the other direction. So it's like not even recognizable. And they really did, because the Cybertruck's very, very angular, whereas the other Teslas are very, rounded corners and smooth and whatever. So in that way, I get they're doing something different and it's still very distinctive while being very different. But like I think personally they went too far in the direction of making something different and it just ends up looking kind of goofy.
Yeah, I'm definitely inclined to agree. I like the cyber concept, right? The stainless steel, the cool, simple design with angular edges. I don't have a problem with any of that. It's very reminiscent of the DeLorean. But I think the execution is it looks like a doorstop. And I absolutely dread the pedestrians that have to get run over by one of those being, 0 to 60'd by a crypto bro.
Yeah, those talking about the pedestrians for a second, they're like very high up off the ground, not very good viewing angles. And then the front of it is literally just like a jagged edge that's like right where the headlights are is like an edge that it's like gonna impale you, like if you're a pedestrian. It's like, it's not safe.
And dude, the thing is bulletproof, okay? It's designed not to dent when you hit it with a sledgehammer. So what happens when you hit it with like a human head?
Yeah.
Not good. Existing Teslas are extremely pedestrian friendly because they've got that big plastic bumper, which is very safe. The hoods are aluminum, so incredibly safe. It's like being hit by a pillow. The Cybertruck is the exact opposite of that. It's like being hit by, I was going to say refrigerator, but refrigerators aren't bulletproof and dent proof. So it's like being hit by an army tank. Good grief.
Yeah, literally. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, they do this. They're like, oh, it's bulletproof. The 99.9% of Cybertruck owners are never going to encounter a bullet near their truck unless they own the gun and they're, playing around with it. Like, they're not going to be in a situation where they need their car to be bulletproof. And like, it's cool to be like, yeah, this truck is so cool and rugged, like it's bulletproof, whatever. Yeah. But like, You know what I mean? It's at that point, it's really more
Yeah.
marketing. Whether it's true or false, it's really more marketing than practical.
Yeah. And also, look, the windows are not bulletproof, dog. It's like it being bulletproof on specifically the metal doors is all well and good. But if someone shoots at the window, I mean, it's a ridiculous premise in the first place, right? You don't need a bulletproof car, okay? You're not the Sultan of Brunei. You're not gonna like. You're not. I get whatever someone says, to justify why they want a bulletproof car, unless their their job title starts with chancellor, you don't need it. It might be cool, but you don't need it. And let's be honest, you're not going to test it. You're not going to shoot your own car.
Yeah.
And even if someone does shoot at the car, you're not the window. Hello? Anyway, it's, some things are fun, gimmicky things. Some things are impractical. Like, I don't know. For example, they talked about how it's faster than a 911 while towing a 911. Now, obviously, the 911 that they raced was not the fastest 911 there is. I couldn't see if it was a GTS or an S or a base or an R, which is mostly like a base, but it's like a styling package. I couldn't see which trim it was, so I don't know exactly what the speed of the car they were racing was, but it wasn't a Turbo S, which is the fastest 911, which would, I believe, be faster than the fastest Cybertruck. Still crazy that a 7,000-pound truck can keep up with a 911 Turbo S, make no mistake. But what I pointed out on Twitter was that the top speed is 130 miles an hour on the Cyber Beast. On the regular one, it's like 110. And people were like, "Oh, why do you care, bro? Why are you going 130 miles an hour?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm not going 130 miles an hour, but you're also not going to race a 911 while towing a 911." So if we're talking about made up stats that don't matter, like you can't just draw the line wherever you want it to be at, it beating a 911 is a useful feature, but it going 130 miles an hour doesn't matter because that's pointless and you can't do that legally. You also can't legally drag race a 911 on public roads. So like, it's meaningless either way.
Yeah, I would argue that both of them are meaningless, like practically speaking, but like, yeah, obviously they're going to talk about the one that looks good to them and not. And I'm like, it's cool. What is it like? Isn't it like 2.6 seconds plus the rolling speed? That's they said it was like 2.6 seconds minus rolling speed for a 0 to 60 for the Cybertruck. I think that's what they said.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like that's super, super fast. But like, it's also kind of scary. Do you want that 7-ton, hunk of metal to accelerate that quickly? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Big cars are kind of frightening. I don't think I would want to get in an accident with one of those. But this being Tesla, if you're in it, you'll be safe as hell. Guarantee you that. Mainly because it's like a school bus. But honestly, I think it's kind of unfortunate because when you set aside the Elon and the styling and the sort of controversy of the Cybertruck, the actual engineering and the tech is ridiculously cool. And Tesla is kind of unique in that they're willing to make a vehicle and, well, hopefully start delivering it to people that has crazy cool tech like that. Ironically, I think the video that I watched that actually did the best job of explaining the Cybertruck and how cool it actually is was Jason Camisa on Haggerty. They have like a 30-minute video that's incredibly well produced and very informative. And all of that stuff, I was like, oh, wow. Why didn't Elon talk about any of this? Like, all he did was stand up there and be like, the future is going to look like the future and it can withstand a bow and arrow. And I'm like, dude, talk about the tech too. I mean, that stuff is fun and like, go for it, talk about it. People like that. But it would have definitely been nice to see them talk about some of the legitimate breakthrough engineering that is on that thing. It's so cool.
Yeah, you're making me want to check out the delivery events. I might give it a watch and see what they actually talked about.
Yeah, dude, you got to watch it. It's so funny. He he just like stands completely out of frame, and also every time they cut to like a video clip, they didn't the video clips weren't like standalone things. Like, you know, when Apple cuts to a video clip, it has audio, and it's like, you know, it is something. At the delivery event, they didn't really do that. So they were like 15 or 20-second clips that they would play, but they wouldn't cut Elon's mic. So we just hear him like breathing, or like he'd be like, so yeah, so that's cool. And then
Oh no.
and then there would just be like a silent video. It was a little awkward.
Oh geez.
Sam is here.
Oh no.
He wants you to go halvesies on a Cybertruck.
You know what? If I, it would be nice to have, you know, a car to drive around in LA. And I think for better or worse, the Cybertruck would definitely turn heads. So
Or
you know
cut them
what,
off.
Sam? Or cut them off. Well, you know, if they go in front, if they're on the sidewalk, you know, where they belong, those darn pedestrians.
What about cyclists? Get them off the roads.
Oh yeah,
Run
I
'em
hate
down.
them. They're the worst. They deserve it. They're asking for it.
They're asking for it. They're all like, ooh, I'm on my little contraption from the 1890s on the middle of a road. I'm like, yeah, I got a Cybertruck. Get out of the way.
Yes. So yes, Sam, I will join you on that. I'm sure unironically Sam's going to get one. I believe
I don't know if he's actually going to get one.
Maybe not now, but like eventually I could definitely see him. I could 100% see him driving one. I don't know.
Look, I'm not going to lie. I think it would be a really fun vehicle to go around in. Like, I would never own one because wait, do you know how wide it is? I looked this up the other day.
What? Or how
So
wide is it?
let me start with context. Okay, you drive a Polestar 2, right? That
sure do.
car is 73 inches wide. Okay, so Sam drives a Tesla Model S. That's 78 inches wide. Model S is a big car, 78 inches wide.
Yeah.
So what's another car that you would say is a big car?
Like a big, like a sedan or anything.
Could be an SUV too, a big car.
How about like a Mazda CX-9? It's pretty big.
Okay, that's a big car. Mazda CX-9 dimensions. Let's see. All right, Mazda CX-9, also 78 inches wide and 199 inches long. Okay, that's a big car. 68 inches tall. That's a large SUV size, pretty standard size. The Cybertruck is 95 inches wide.
Jeez.
Isn't that crazy? And it's 223 inches long. So it's 2 feet longer than a CX-9. It's a foot and a half wider, and it's 70 inches tall. So weirdly, only 2 inches taller than a CX-9. But the thing is massive. I didn't realize it was that big.
Jeez, that seems, yeah, it's kind of funny. Like when you look at, I feel like when you look at this thing, it's so like, it looks so different than what you expect that it's like almost hard to tell how big it is unless there's something next to it for scale.
Exactly. It doesn't have like the perspective of scale that we're normally used to. It's crazy.
Exactly. But that's like, I can't imagine parking that thing like that. Like having to park that thing, having to like maneuver through like a parking garage, or like imagine if you own that thing like in LA and you have to like drive it on those streets like in that traffic. Like deal with the parking garages, whatever. That is not a car for a city, or a truck or whatever. Like that's
A
kind of rough.
vehicle.
Yeah,
Okay, I
that's
will say
rough.
though, you can't forget it does have rear wheel steering, so that significantly improves its maneuverability. In the road tests that I saw, it actually had a pretty relatively tight turning circle. Like, I mean, obviously it's still huge, but I don't think it would be that terrible for driving, for like maneuvering around a city street in terms of steering, but the size is definitely still a thing. It's hard to get around that.
Yeah, that's gonna be okay. Now I'm curious, like, how does that compare to a truck, like an F-150 Lightning or something?
That's a good question. F-150 Lightning dimensions. I have to type all of this one-handed because I don't have a mic arm.
Yeah.
What the heck? It actually got delivered, so I can go pick it up after the podcast, which is super
Oh
helpful.
boy.
Okay. F-150 Lightning. So, interestingly enough, the F-150 Lightning is 7 inches taller, and it's actually longer.
Hmm.
It's 232 inches long, but it is 15 inches narrower. It's 80 inches wide instead of 95.
Hmm.
So that's significant. I don't know. Personally, vehicles that big are not for me. And especially the proliferation of giant, huge trucks, I think is a problem. And people are probably going to yell at me for that. People are going to be like, oh, yeah, I want my truck because I have to go to Home Depot and buy drywall. Okay, that's fine. If you got to go buy drywall, that's fine. But I'm just saying, I have seen literally hundreds of these pickup trucks, and 99% of them have an empty bed.
Yeah, there's definitely like I don't know. I feel like yeah, it's people like part of it is the image or the lifestyle of like, being a person that owns a truck or whatever. But I feel like the
Right.
interesting thing with the Cybertruck is it will appeal to a subset of those people, the truck people. There's
Mhm.
definitely a subset of those people that would never buy a Cybertruck. They would because it represents everything that they hate about, modern society. But there's a subset of people that would buy that. But I feel like it also appeals to other people. Like, okay, Sam, for example, I feel like he wouldn't buy a truck, but he
But he would
would
buy a
potentially
Cybertruck.
buy a Cybertruck. So it's going to appeal
That's
to
a good point.
people, and those people definitely don't need a truck, right? Like there are some
Yeah.
people that like don't really need it, but like maybe they use it occasionally. There are going to be people that buy the Cybertruck, and they definitely don't need to have a truck. But it's a Tesla thing. It's whatever, they're going to buy it.
That's a really good point. I think you're right. The way that it's all been positioned is like we're reinventing the truck. But to your point, I don't think that this is going to be replacing, like, I don't think you're going to find that many F-350 owners that are switching. I'm sure there's going to be some, but a lot of the thing that truck bros love is their V8 motor and their lifted suspension, and
Mm-hmm.
that they get to roll coal on people, and maybe they just are like a contractor, someone that's actually got to haul stuff. And one of the big problems with electric trucks is the range, and specifically the range when you tow stuff. Because if you are going to buy a Cybertruck for legitimate, like, professional stuff, and you are actually going to tow 11,000 pounds, which they say is possible, guarantee that 340 miles of range is not going to stick around, right? So, does it appeal to truck people? Maybe some. But to your point, I think it's going to appeal to people that buy G Wagons. It's going to appeal to people that buy, like, what are other big Hummers? You remember when the Hummer, like the 2000s, the OG Hummer, that's the type of vehicle this is. I think you're right that it's not, if you break down the subset of people that are going to buy this, you'll find some people that will be like, oh, okay, this actually is like a practical vehicle for me that happens to look and be quite a statement. But you will definitely get a lot of people who are pure statement buyers who will probably like wipe down the bed if it gets dirty and won't put anything in it because they won't want to scratch it.
Yeah, and like that's, probably a good thing for Tesla because it's a different market, right? Like it's
Hmm.
not, if the truck market, I don't know, you're the car expert, but if the truck market is going to be saturated, whether or not it is, but if it's going to be saturated, I feel like this market of people who like wouldn't buy a truck but would buy a Cybertruck is potentially underserved. Or like you said, there are vehicles that exist for these people, but the Cybertruck is going to be an attractive option for them.
Hmm.
So it's, maybe it's smart. I get it.
Yeah, I think honestly you're right. It's not really the truck market. It's not really for the EV market. It's for the statement vehicle market. That's what I'm going to call it. It's a statement vehicle.
I like that. And like I'll be honest, to an extent, to a lesser extent, my like the Polestar 2 for me was kind of like that because I
Really?
specifically, well, insofar as I specifically wanted an EV, I knew I wanted
Hmm.
an EV, but I didn't want to get a Tesla, primarily because
Mm.
there are so many Teslas around here and they all look the same and whatever. And there's nothing wrong. I had a Tesla as a rental car for a few days, so I got to like fully experience it. And I totally get why people like them. The infotainment system is great. The charging experience is great. It really is the iPhone of EVs, and everything else is the Android of EVs. It
Mhm.
100% is like that.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. My girlfriend just got a Model 3 back in May, and having now driven several hundred miles in it over the couple months, I firmly believe that the Model 3 may be the best overall car that you can buy. It's 40 grand, it's electric, it's got, acceptable range for 40 grand. It's got decent luxury, it's got great software. It has pretty darn good driving dynamics for, I mean, maybe not, to go on a racetrack, but for driving around town. The seating position is excellent. The visibility is great because they kind of, let's call it, they took inspiration from Porsche, right? So the thing that Porsche has done for decades now, ever since the very beginning, because they're rear engined or mid engined, is you can have a front hood line that's really, really low. Most cars kind of go forward and then down because they have an engine there. But what Porsches have always done is go right down. So you get a really, really, really good position, very great view. And you get those humps for, in the case of Porsche, that's where the headlights are and the wheel wells. Tesla kind of has that a little bit too. So you get really, it's really easy to know where the wheels are, to know, like, it's very easy for your brain to map the dimensions of the car. It's very well thought out. There's really nothing wrong with it. But as Richard points out, it looks like a computer mouse. And that's honestly not wrong. It's not the car that I would want for the same reasons as you. It's everywhere. It's kind of a vanilla car. It's the iPhone 15 car, but gosh dang, it's really good.
Yeah, exactly. So, to my point, exactly what you said, like the Tesla's a great car, it's a great option. But I wanted something a bit different, something
Mhm.
that wasn't a Tesla, but I knew I wanted an EV. And so that's why I got the Polestar. Now, the Polestar is not like the Cybertruck insofar as the Polestar looks much, it blends in more. It looks much more reasonable. I
Right.
still think it looks pretty cool. I like the way that it looks, but it is not a statement in the way that the Cybertruck is a statement. And personally, I'm
Mhm.
happy with that. I'm happy to have, a different car, but not something that looks like it came from a different planet. That's
Yeah.
essentially, where I'm standing.
Yeah. And in fact, actually, speaking of that, Noah, I have a proposition for you. Okay.
Okay.
Because as you may recall, my I currently lease an Audi A6. My lease is up at the very beginning of May. And I now live in a building where for $100 I can get a dedicated EV charger with unlimited charging included in that price, which is actually kind of a
Whoa.
ridiculous deal if you think about it.
Yeah. Wait. So it's $100 and you get
Mhm.
unlimited electricity.
Yes, sir. Kind
Whoa,
of nuts.
that's pretty
So
nice.
it has legitimately, like, living in a building where I have that has completely shifted the calculations for a vehicle. Now, I leased an A6 in 2021 in May because specifically I didn't want to get a Model 3 or a Model S. Well, the Model S, even if I wanted one, was and still is too expensive for me. It's not what I want. And they just didn't the electric options that were available in May of 2021 weren't what I was looking for. Now there are more options out, and the fact that I could basically for $100 never have to spend any more than that for charging unless I go on a road trip totally shifts the calculus, right? Because it means that you can spend more on an EV and still come out the same, because I would definitely be saving a crap load of money on gas.
Yeah.
So, long-winded way of saying, when you come here next week or the week after that, I think it is, I think we should go test drive a Lucid Air,
Ooh, yes.
right?
We should. Yeah, let's do it.
Because the Lucid Air is so slept on, and I'm really sad about that. Lucid they're going through a really rough time.
Yeah.
And they just unveiled the Gravity, which I really think they should have done first, if I'm being honest. They're clearly doing the Tesla model, right? You know, big sedan, then big SUV, then small sedan, then small SUV. It makes sense. I mean, it's Peter Rawlinson, right? He's gonna do a similar model. But the timing was not great for them because the EV market cooled off and nobody wants to spend 100 grand on a sedan anymore. But as a result of that, they have some pretty tempting lease deals, which also mean that I wouldn't have to be sort of, stuck with an $80,000 car if the company goes out of business and then all of a sudden I'm just like, "Oh, this sucks." If it's a
Yeah.
lease, you're kind of like, I'm just tasting it, right? I'm just doing just a taste.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think we should do it. 400 miles of range, 0 to 60, 3.8 seconds. That's the base model, by the way. That's crazy. Those are some appealing looking vehicles.
Yeah, they look really nice and they're still super uncommon. They're definitely
Yes.
definitely one of the rarer. Like even I'll say Polestar is still pretty rare in my area, but like
Mhm.
I won't be shocked if I see one. I'll probably only see one, maybe two, but like I won't be shocked. But the Lucid Air is definitely even more rare than that. And I very rarely
Yeah.
see them, but when I do, I always, obviously I always notice them. They're cool
Mhm.
cars.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on the looks. I think if I were picking a car, money no object, range not a factor, I'm just talking about looks, it's Porsche Taycan by a country mile or Audi e-tron GT. Two very similar takes on a similar style of car because underneath they're the same thing. But man, those things look good. The problem is though, I do have beef with the Taycan and the e-tron GT. The e-tron GT I love the look of, but the infotainment system is the same as what I have in the A6, and it's fine. It's basic, but it's fine. But it's a little dated. The digital gauge cluster is a little small. The center screen is 9 inches. It's a little small. All the other EVs have like these huge screens, and the 9-inch screen is too small. And then the other problem that I have with the Taycan and with the e-tron GT is the range. It's like 250, 240 miles. You can get the Taycan with range extender, and that bumps it up to like almost 300. But dude, then it's like if you want to get the Taycan with the range extender and you want to get the all-wheel drive, the Taycan 4S, by the time you do those things, it's like 120 grand. I can't afford that. So then we're back to Lucid.
Yeah, they look. I mean, it looks. I don't know all the details about them, but it looks like a pretty nice vehicle. So I think we should definitely go for a test drive.
Yeah. But right now, unfortunately, we got a test drive wrapping up this episode because we got onto a bit of an EV binge today. I do love that we get the comments. Anyone else remember when this was an Apple podcast? We did talk about Apple for the first half, and for like 102 out of 104 episodes that we've done. But fair point. We got onto a bit of an EV discussion today.
I mean, there is not that much going on with Apple these days. We were off for like 3 weeks, and I don't think anything really happened. So
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta branch out a little bit.
Yeah. And I think people enjoyed it. We had a pretty consistent viewership. I always can tell if we're being boring because 20, 30 people will leave, and then I'm like, oh, okay. We're doing a boring one today. But maybe it was just the new surroundings or the fact that we've been off for a while, but people were sticking around today.
That's good.
But unfortunately, they can no longer stick around because the show's over. Sorry. I've been your host, Luke Miani.
And I've been your host, Noah Rubin. We'll see you next week for another episode, and have a great night.
Take care.